Ugandan in the form of Jacob Kiplimo ensure his proud country are on top of the podium once again. Well, it's a small, select, but intriguing lineup for this. Adrian Wildschut, third in the World Student Games, the South African, knocked out in the heats of the 5 in Oregon, 7th in the NCAAs, so he's a good athlete, as is Kai Robinson. PB this year in Stanford, only 20, big stage for him. It's absolutely packed here. Now to the first of 3 Kenyans. Kibiwott Kandi, world half marathon silver medalist and the second fastest in history over that distance. Joseph Panga didn't manage to finish in Eugene. He'll hope to go one better here, the Tanzanian. Sam Atkin, national champion. Recovered well from Freiberg disease. Now this guy's better known as Edward Zakayo, former world junior champion, Commonwealth bronze as a 16-year-old 4 years ago. And what about Daniel Simu Ibenyo? 4th in the world indoors at the start of this year. He's in cracking form, as is this guy, Jacob Kiplimo, the world half marathon champion, the world half marathon record holder. Got a bronze in Tokyo and in Eugene. Listen to the roar for Scotland's Andrew Butchart, a Scottish national record earlier this year. 6th, remember, in Rio over the 5. Could he find his best form here over this classic 6¼ mile race that's produced some epic battles down the years in Commonwealth history? Kiplimo will hope to follow Joshua Cheptegei as a Ugandan Commonwealth champion. Let's see.
Stand up, gentlemen, please. Stand back.
Wildschut of South Africa just putting his arm forward to say, come on guys, toes behind the line. 25 laps just about to commence. They're underway. And as it is such a small, select group of high-quality men, I just wonder, Tim Hutchings, how cautious and how tactical this will be in the early stages. And what a brilliant lineup. We've got the 2 fastest men in history over the half marathon meeting on the track at 6¼ miles. One of them a cross-country specialist as well in the form of Jacob Kiplimo as Sam Atkin goes to the front. This has got the makings of a small but very intriguing race.
It has indeed, yes. I mean, you know, it has to be said, Rob, it's disappointing that there are just 3 non-African continent athletes in this race. 9 athletes in all. There's an Englishman, a Scotsman and an Australian, and I know that there's been a lot of comment around the corridors behind the stadium about why the Commonwealth can't put together a stronger field than this, but Sam Atkin, good to see him going for it. I think we all know that when the Kenyan trio and when Kiplimo start turning on the power, that they can dominate this one, and it should be a dust-up between the East Africans. Kiplimo, an extraordinary athlete. I love the story back on Saturday when he actually was handing out water to some of his compatriots during the marathons. But here we go, Nina Kennedy, no, that's a second refusal from her. 1 attempt left, and it's not looking good, is it? But maybe she's saving her best till last. So often in the field events, the 3rd attempt produces something special.
Well, Sam Atkin obviously deciding that he wants to run the early part of this race, at least on his own. A couple of seconds up on Jacob Kiplimo with Andy Butchart of Scotland, not Great Britain, just on his shoulder as Ibenyo moves ahead of Butchart up onto the shoulder of Kiplimo in second. He's got an incredible CV, Jacob Kiplimo. He's got 4 global medals over 10,000 metres, talking about the Ugandan in second place, as well as a world cross-country medal and that world half marathon title on the roads of Gdynia in Poland. But this is Sam Atkin, bounced back from that very unusual Freiberg disease, causes problems with the bones in his feet sticking upwards. And that's the big chase pack of 8 trying to close him down. So what's he gone through? 2:39 for the opening K. Yeah, so it's pretty tasty, Tim. It's inside 26:40 pace. So he's turning this into a very honest early rhythm.
Well, it's good to see Sam Atkin at least giving it a go, trying to make it honest, and to an extent he's forcing the pack to bang out a reasonably respectable tempo themselves, because these early kilometres could be very, very slow if nobody was prepared to take it on and throw the gauntlet down. But Kiplimo, well, I have him down, Rob, as the complete runner. He's an extraordinary talent when you think he's still only 21. He's been around for, it seems, 3 or 4 years now, doing it at a world-class level. Great on the country. I mean, that fabulous second place at the World Cross Country in Denmark 3 years back. You and I were both there calling that race. It was a real joy to see the best of the world over the country battling over a really tough cross-country course. He's fantastic on the roads. We know that. I was at the Rack Half Marathon back in February, where he so nearly broke his own world record for that distance in the United Arab Emirates. And of course on the track we know that he's a formidable competitor as well, and the Olympic bronze medalist from the 10,000 last year, and the bronze medalist from just a couple of weeks ago at 10,000. That race, incidentally, 16 days ago. I wonder if there's a bit of it in the legs of Kiplimo.
Well, I guess we'll find out. And actually, quite clever, I guess, from Sam Atkin, because what probably would have suited Kiplimo off the back of such a hard run to try and live with his compatriot Joshua Cheptegei, who mounted a magnificent, as it turned out, successful title defence. Probably a really slow first 10 or 11 laps would have suited Jacob Kiplimo better, but he wouldn't have lined up here had he not felt he was in shape to take this title, especially with his compatriot, who would have been the defending champion, Joshua Cheptegei, opting not to compete here.
No, I think you're exactly right. Sam Atkin looking lovely and relaxed here and moving well. And let's not make any mistake about Sam Atkin. He is a world-class competitor. 27:26, his lifetime best from a couple of years back. Belongs to the Lincoln Wellington club. Looks lovely and relaxed here, doesn't he? But that pack are actually beginning to close him down now. And when they come down this time, Rob, they'll be going through 2,000 metres. But that first kilometre, 2:39, as he pointed out, very, very healthy pace.
And he's just having a little look in the rear-view mirror, as it were, just checking out where the others are. And the answer is they're coming back to him slowly and surely. Kiplimo just having a little look at the clock as they go through 2K in, 5:20. So, yeah, pretty much bang on 26:40 pace. But they are winding him in little by little. But he has ensured that we haven't gone through that first 10 or 12 laps completely dawdling with a blanket thrown over the field. It's more a case of single file, and one or two of these athletes, Tim, will be working very hard as we watch Kennedy, seeing whether she can finish with a flourish.
Third attempt for Kennedy then. Third and final attempt. No, it's not to be. None of her 3 attempts really convincing. I don't think she really believed it. She knew she didn't need it. She has won with a spectacular second attempt at 4.60 m, the Commonwealth title. It stays in Australian hands. In fact, the Australians have won all 5 titles from 1998 to 2014, and then Newman won for Canada in 2018, but it's back in Australian hands again.
Well, talking of Australians, Tim, women's discus throw final continuing. Olszewski open with a 53.23. So that's shy of the 55-metre line for the Australian. Maybe a slight improvement on her first round throw. Looking for that high spin rate, requiring therefore more force to get the discus spinning at an optimum rate. And maybe a few centimetres have been grabbed by the Australian. Everybody chasing Jade Lally though, 57.33, 53.60. She stays just outside the medals.
Now Atkin had a little look over his shoulder as Jacob Kiplimo, now in third, closed him down, and Andy Butchart, on sensing it was getting a little slow once again, has decided to take his turn at the front. So the Englishman and the Scot determined not to let the East Africans have the early rhythm all to themselves. A decent national record for Butchart. It's taken him a while, Tim, to rediscover the kind of form that had him so close to the Olympic podium in Rio 6 years ago, but maybe a hint with that 27.36 for the Scottish record that stepping up to the 10 might be his future.
No, I think it probably is. I mean, Andy has been there and done it at 5,000 metres. Remember, he was sixth in the Rio Olympic 5,000 metres. But this is only his third ever 10,000 metres on the track. He's learning his trade as a 25-lapper, Andy. And I spoke to him briefly at the UK Championships back in late June in Manchester, and he said he'd had enormous injury problems. I think he came into that Championships with only about a month's training, decent training behind him. He then went to the Worlds, of course, wasn't really able to do himself justice. So he's improving in fitness all the time. 2:47 that third kilometre, Rob. 8:08 at 3K, much slower.
Yeah, so now they've drifted just outside 27-minute pace, which is why the athlete wearing Pingua, who many people will better know as Zakayo, has decided to take this on. Remember, he got a bronze at the age of 16 4 years ago, checking his watch and deciding it's time to inject a little bit of pace, the Kenyan at the front.
Seema Punia, the Indian athlete, entering the circle. Her first round throw, 52 metres and 28. Looking to get nearer to a podium position, and that's better. That's over the 55-metre line. Well, 2 silver medals, as I mentioned, from this Commonwealth Games in this discipline so far. And that could promote her to a podium position, because that's near to the 56-metre line. It's not going to challenge the English athlete Jade Lally's lead, but Punia is getting better here. 55.92 goes into bronze. Okyekwere then of Nigeria. 55.82 in the first round. Can she get a little bit more, the Nigerian? She's gone over 60 metres this year. See the retrieval implement, the remote control car, ready to take the 1K implement back to the throwers. Going to be an improvement. Not going to be close enough to challenge the lead of England's Jade Lally. .56 metres and 42 into silver.
Down the back straight, Zakayo leads. He's got that distinctive tape down the back of his calves. He's officially carded as Pingua. Leading from Andy Butchart, Sam Atkin in third, Jacob Kiplimo quite happy in fourth place, and the third of the Kenyans, who we haven't really had a chance to speak about much yet, Tim, just towards the back of that group of 9 who are now pretty much single file. Kibiwot Kandi, silver, and you commentated on that race in Gdynia with Mari Yamauchi. Kibiwot Kandi, silver in the world half, the second quickest in history. Well, he was a world record holder until it was broken by a single second by Jacob Kiplimo. So the third of the Kenyans, who's quite happy just at the back of this group, has got immense stamina when called upon.
Yeah, and Kandi, and I think you pronounce it Kandiye, actually. I need to check that. Perhaps somebody from watching this in Kenya could let us know. But Kibiwot Kandi, or Kandiye, actually didn't run in Eugene, so he comes here on fresh legs, relatively speaking. We know he's got enormous strength, and at the age of 26, very much in his prime. And I wonder whether or not Kandiye's got something up his sleeve to dish out to the other 8 men in this field. Remember the race back in 2018 when Cheptegei won in 27.19, which is the game's record, by the way. Was a race of 2 very different halves, 13.54 at 5,000 and then a 13.25 second half. And that's sort of what I'm expecting here tonight, Rob. I suspect we'll see negative splits and some real fireworks at some point in the second half.
Oh, you bring back good memories, Tim. That 10,000 on the Gold Coast is one of the finest races I watched that week in Australia. It was absolutely magnificent. There was very little in it between Cheptegei and Mohamed Ahmed running for Canada. But Kibiwot Kandi, or Kandiye, just towards the back. He's keeping his powder dry at the moment, but so too is Jacob Kiplimo. Just ahead of him, the Ugandan, arguably the joint favourite, now fourth from the back. And the Ugandans are hoping to keep a long list of winners of this event going. Boniface Kiprop took the title in Melbourne, and then Moses Kipsero went back-to-back in 2010 and 2014. What a brilliant cross-country runner and World Championship medalist he was before Joshua Cheptegei took the crown in Australia. So the Ugandans have got a rich history in this event, and if you are watching in Uganda, then Oliotia, we are delighted to have your company. Victor Kiplangat became your first marathon champion on Saturday, and he was greeted with a great reception in Victoria Square in the heart of Birmingham. And what a great reception it will be, whoever wins this, Tim. How good, I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, how good is it to see so many people packed into these tall tiered stands? They're creating a wonderful backdrop for the climax of our opening night of action.
Well, it is glorious, and of course Great Britain with a great tradition in distance running over the last 30, 40 years and more, going back to the great Commonwealth champions like Brendan Foster and Henry Rono. I was at the 78 Commonwealth Games, and Henry Rono toyed with the field there. He was striding down the straights, jogging around the bends, lap after lap in Edmonton, Canada, and it was a majestic performance for him, quite incredible. What I'm interested about here, Rob, is when will the Kenyans begin to kick in and move away, and what will the others do? How long will they be able to hang on? And it's a horrible position if you're in a race like this and you know you've got athletes up against you who are actually almost certainly significantly superior. You're running almost scared. You're wondering when they're going to kick in and make their move, and that must be in the minds of some of those non-Kenyans at the moment.
Yes,
Certainly.
hard to predict and hard to know when you make your move, but Ebenyo looking very composed here, having a little look round just to see who's there, and it's Candy who's just behind him. Camera focuses on Andy Butchart, who's got Jacob Kiplimo of Uganda running on his shoulder, and now it's the turn of the South African, the 24-year-old Adrian Wildschut. And good evening if you're watching in South Africa. I know our pictures are going to many different countries around the Commonwealth, and he's had a little look and decided that perhaps it was getting a little too slow for his liking, and this is a half-decent injection of pace, and it's only Andy Butchart, Tim, who's decided to go with him, and they've opened up 5 or 6 metres on the leading two Kenyans in that chase group.
Well, I'm glad to see Wildschut giving a good account of himself. The last 3 kilometres, by the way, remember the 2 opening kilometres, 2:39 and 2:41, were quick. Then it slowed. We had a couple of 2:47s and then a 2:50. 13:45 at 5,000 metres was the split.
Just to interrupt, sorry Tim, what a shame. Sam Atkin of England has stepped off the track, just a roundabout where Nina Kennedy has been celebrating, winning the pole vault for Australia. I thought my eyes were deceiving me for a second, but he just stepped onto the infield, and that's a real shame. So a field of 9 becomes a field of 8, and the man who was responsible for setting the early pace and setting us off at around about 26:40 pace plays no further part in this final. So 8 into 3, and it's Wildschut now, the South African, still at the front, but one by one they're beginning to queue up. And just having a little look at the back of that group, it looks like the Tanzanian Joseph Panga, who didn't manage to finish the race in Eugene, he is the first to become detached from this group. So all of a sudden we had 9 running in a big bunch. Now we have 7 in single file, with the Tanzanian just off the back in 8th.
Yeah, they will start peeling off now. This is where it begins to hurt. 5,000 in 13:45, although it was slow by the standards of Kiplimo and the 3 Kenyan athletes in this field. It's not that slow, still 27:30 pace, and it will pick up. And it's good to see the South African Adrian Wildschut go to the front and push this along. 2:45, that's a 6th kilometre, so that's the quickest since the 2 kilometre point. So we had a couple of 2:47s, then a 2:50, now a 2:45. It's still not lightning quick, but it's respectable. Nobody yet shaken off though from this group, apart from, as you said, Panga, the Tanzanian.
Now the South African is looking up at himself and the big screen, and that's meant that he's just drifted towards the very outside of lane 1. And I looked at Andy Butchart, no interest in coming through on the inside and taking it up. So they continue single file with Ebenyo in the lighter of the spikes, just off the podium at the World Indoors over 3,000 metres. He is the leading of the 3 Kenyans at the moment, and he's motioning for Kibiwott Candy to hurry up and come and share the pacemaking duties, talking about the first of the 3 Kenyans just running behind Andy Butchart. Now he moves to the outside of lane 1 and offers Candy the inside. A little bit of team tactics at play here, perhaps, Tim.
Well, I'm not sure what he expects people to do. Why, unless there's been any pre-arranged discussion, why he would expect any of the Kenyans to chip in and do to help him in whatever the way he wants to run the race. They're entitled to say no thanks. He can open the door for them. They don't have to walk through it. Andy Butchart certainly quite happy not to. He's giving a good account of himself so far as the Scot there in second place. You just have the feeling that there is a bit of a thunder to come, don't you, from the three Kenyan vests, and Kiplimo must be deciding when to play his card, because undoubtedly all those four, the three Kenyans, Kiplimo second to left, have got extra gears.
The cat and mouse game continues, but as you said, the three Kenyans and the Ugandan, who are running in third, fourth, fifth and sixth respectively, just keeping their powder dry. Pingua with the calf tape, just third from the left-hand side of this group. Kai Robinson, the youngster, a PB in Stanford earlier this year. The Australian's doing his level best to stay with this little group of seven. We've lost Sam Atkin of England dropping out, and we've seen Panga spat out the back of this group. He's now adrift by some 75 metres, and now perhaps, Tim, comes the first big move from all three of the Kenyans, and it'll be fascinating to see how quickly Jacob Kiplimo recognises the danger and closes the gap. All of a sudden, Kenya 1, 2 and 3, with the Ugandan right behind them in fourth.
Yes, it was almost choreographed, wasn't it, the way the three Kenyans moved to the fore. Kiplimo, though, despite being just 21, has a very, very wise racing head on his shoulders. Many, many times he's outthought and outraced more experienced opponents. He has he's accrued experience and knowledge of how to race well, not just using flat-out raw speed and endurance, but actually to outwit opponents as well. They go through there with 7 laps to run. Still, you could almost throw a big blanket over these 7 athletes, Rob. But the Kenyans would appear to be working together, and it'll be interesting to see what damage they can do to Kiplimo here, the sole Ugandan.
And Candy is the man with the half marathon speed who set the world record that was then broken by Jacob Kiplimo, the Ugandan, in third. Ibenyo, the second of the two Kenyans, has got really good raw speed. African silver over the 5,000 at Great Games in Mauritius. Kenya 1 and 2, and Uganda now third. Little bit of a gap back to Zakeo, who, remember, is running with the bib Pingua. He's a former world junior champion. He got himself a bronze medal as a young teenager on the Gold Coast. They're really working, Tim. It's quite a muggy evening, a bit of a breeze around the stadium, but this has been a tough run, and what a spirited little moment here from Andy Butchart, who's getting good cheers from the crowd, coming back up onto the shoulder of the second of the two Kenyans, and all of a sudden, Tim, they've slowed again with 6 to go.
Well, I think nobody really wants to commit. It's a cat and mouse game. They're watching each other. That 7th kilometre, by the way, a 2:48. They went through in 1918, so we're down to the last 3 kilometres now, and they're all of a sudden, ironically, having been gone through 5k in 13:45 and heading for a time probably down around 27:30, it's been reduced to a jog. And as I say that, Rob, guess who hits the front when he decides this is getting a bit silly?
Right. Is this the World Half Marathon Champions bid to burn off the rest of the field? On the track, he has always managed to get himself a global medal, but never the gold. He's taken World Junior bronze, Jacob Kiplimo, the Ugandan leading. He's taken a World Junior silver, a bronze behind Joshua Cheptegei in the Olympics, a bronze behind Joshua Cheptegei not 2 weeks ago in Eugene, and this is his bid to strike gold for Uganda here over the 10,000 metres, and the Kenyans have responded. We're in for a cracking last 5 laps.
2 kilometres to go, Rob. A 2:48 the previous kilometre, the 7th, that kilometre at 2:47, so no significant acceleration. But it does look now, though, with 5 laps to run, a long mile you could call it, as though Kiplimo is going to start testing these Kenyans, and immediately the gaps are opening. And this is very difficult because the men behind could go with this, but then they'd be flailing for the last couple of laps. They've got to judge their effort best over this last mile and a bit, and Kiplimo here is asking very early questions. It's brave to go hard this early.
It really is. Just over a mile to go. And Pingua, Edward Zakayo Pingua, is the first of the Kenyans to run into problems here. He's doing his level best to come back to this group. The South African, the Scot and the Australian might well be in a battle for 5th place because the leading 4 are away. Zakayo is in no man's land here, but they come round with a mile to go, and it's the world half marathon record holder from the African silver medalist over the 5,000 metres and the silver medalist from the world half behind Jacob Kiplimo in 3rd place. Nothing to separate those three, who are now beginning to open up, some 20 metres or so on Zakayo, who is isolated in 4th.
Well, that was a 61.89 to 4 laps to go. He really has turned the screw intensely there, has Jacob Kiplimo. 3.5 laps to run, and the 2 tucked in behind him still look pretty comfortable, but as ever, with distance running and front running and trying to break your opposition, you've just got to be patient. You've just got to keep pressing the accelerator, keep the pressure up on them, keep asking the question, don't give them a chance to physically or mentally relax, and keep telling yourself you are hurting them, you are hurting them.
And he is, Tim, he is, because Kibiwott Kandi is working very, very hard to stay with this. It's Jacob Kiplimo leading with 3 laps to go in the men's 10,000 metres, desperate to keep this long line of Ugandan champions going here with another title, another instalment in this great rivalry between Uganda and Kenya on the Commonwealth stage. And Kibiwott Kandi has allowed a few metres to open up. It's Kiplimo, the half marathon specialist, the cross-country specialist, with Daniel Ibenyo of Kenya, the only one living with his pace at the moment. These two are beginning to pull away, and what a wonderful last kilometre we're in for here. This is real heart and passion on the line, Tim.
Look at that 9th kilometre, 2:34. He has turned it on in dramatic style, a 61.8 and a 61.9 the last 2 laps from Kiplimo, and he has literally in the last couple of 100 metres clicked it up another notch. The pressure is on now. The Kenyans beginning to struggle against this forceful surge from Kiplimo. 2 laps to run.
800 metres to go in this battle for supremacy over this classic distance, 6.25 miles. Some of the all-time Commonwealth distance running greats have contested this title. Naftali Timu of Kenya won this in 1966 before having a fabulous Olympic duel with Mamo Wolde in 68 in Mexico. We've seen the likes of Simon Munyi of Kenya winning this in 1998, Wilberforce Tillel in 2002. But now we're in an era of Ugandan dominance, and how the Kenyans would love to bounce back. Daniel Ibenyo has got the belief, he's got the speed, but can he find the acceleration round the last lap? What a brilliant climax we're in for here.
500 metres to run, and Kiplimo still looking calm, still bouncing along, looking fresh, both sweating up profusely, because it is a warm, muggy evening here, as he is challenged, can you believe, by Ibenyo as they approach the belt.
Listen to the noise from the crowd here. Everybody in Birmingham responding to this classic duel over 10,000 metres. Ibenyo strikes for home. He has tracked Jacob Kiplimo like an unwanted shadow, but all of a sudden he is the man in the firing line. Kiplimo gives a little glance over his shoulder. Is it an indication that he's tiring? But he's coming wide now. Ibenyo being forced to answer the questions inside the last 200 metres. Who's got the heart? Who's got the belief? Who's got the desire? Kiplimo not waiting for the straight. He's running wide round the bend, and look at the grace with which he's accelerating here. He has been desperate to upgrade so many bronze and silver medals on the track to a gold here in Birmingham, and he's going to do it. The crowd are on their feet saluting a wonderful run from a great champion. It was destined to be his. He took it by the scruff of the neck, and it's gold again for Uganda. Jacob Kiplimo coming out on top. A brilliant, brilliant silver from Daniel Ibenyo. What a race. A dance of delight from Jacob Kiplimo. Fabulous silver medal there for Ibenyo in a new games record for the Ugandan, and an excellent bronze as well from a tiring figure of Kieniya. But Jacob Kiplimo has the heart, and he's got the whole stadium in the palm of his hand. He tore that field to pieces and was not to be denied a glittering gold at the end of a brilliant season.
Well, he worked it to perfection. The place times are strong too. Look at this. Andy Butchart, a long way under 28 minutes, even though he was dropped off the back over those last few laps. Kiplimo 27.09, but Rob, he ran it to perfection because he sapped the strength out of Ebenyo and the other Kenyans. I got his mile up to the bell at 4.05. Absolutely brilliant tactics from Kiplimo, and he does have that devastating finishing speed.
And how the crowd respond to our last finisher, Joseph Panga of Tanzania. This has been a superb performance from Kiplimo. At last he steps out of the mighty shadow of Joshua Cheptegei, and the world champion who beat him to the gold in Eugene would no doubt be watching and saluting the man who has succeeded him as Uganda's latest Commonwealth champion over 10,000 metres. And all credit to Daniel Ebenyo. He took it to Kiplimo. He was brave enough to go to the front with a lap to go, but the Ugandan was toying with him and waiting for the time to strike with 1:50 to go. That was a brilliant distance race, Tim. What a privilege to witness that heart and guts on display here in Birmingham in front of a packed crowd.
Well, the final kilometre, 2:30. I didn't get exactly the last mile, but I suspect my calculations are about 4:03 for the last 4 laps. Kieniya running 27.20 there, and that for him a significant new personal best for the bronze.
And how about this? He didn't bother waiting for the straight. This was the moment to strike. Ebenyo did so well to keep this burst going on the last lap. I thought for a split second with 3:50 to go, when Kiplimo looked over his shoulder, maybe he was tired. He was just double checking where Kieniya was. And the answer to the question down the last 100 metres, all of them were nowhere. They just couldn't respond to this beautifully timed drive to the line, and how he was able to celebrate and enjoy the last 50 metres. I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time in Uganda, and they will be going absolutely wild in Kampala and in the beautiful bars along the banks of the Nile in Jinja. The Nile specials will be cracked open tonight in celebration of Jacob Kiplimo. That was a superb, majestic piece of distance running.
Well, he knew he'd got the gold in the bag, didn't he, down the home straight. Lovely when you get the gap like that and you're able to really soak up the applause and the moment, and you sort of press the record button in your mind and remember these moments to tell your children and your grandchildren. Very special indeed. Commonwealth champion, world champion at half marathon. What more titles will this young man accrue over the next 10 years and more, maybe? He does have such a marvellous engine, great speed, enormous stamina, and many people, of course, wondering, well, he might be able to sprint like that at the end of a track race, but what can he do to the marathon distance as and when he decides to step into that territory?
He's got a few dance moves as well. You said it yourself, Tim. He is the complete package. He's a world cross-country silver medalist. You know all about that. He's a world half marathon champion. He's a world record holder at the half marathon. He's a Commonwealth champion and a 4-time global medalist over the 10,000 metres. And he's done all that before his 22nd birthday. That is an extraordinary list of achievements for one so young.
Yeah, and when you think that 4th place 4 years ago when he was just 17 was just a sign of things to come. Joshua Cheptegei, of course, announcing his entrance onto the world stage in spectacular style with those double goals on the Gold Coast.
Oh, what an absolute treat. It wasn't the biggest field, but there don't need to be many to create a distance running classic. Well done to Jacob Kiplimo, the Ugandan on
25 laps, 10,000 meters. One man who ran the first 24 almost exactly the same as everyone else, then ran the last one faster than almost anyone on earth could follow. The number you need before anything else, 55.4 seconds. That is the final lap Jacob Kiplimo ran to close out the men's 10,000-meter final at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. The race averaged around 64 seconds per lap. The final lap was 9 seconds faster. 9 seconds in a race where 5 seconds separates a gold medal from a lap down. That is not a finishing kick. That is a physiological event. The question this video answers is not who won. The question is how a human body produces a 55-second lap after 9,400 meters at championship pace, and why the athletes around Kiplimo, men who had also been saving themselves, also waiting, could not answer it. You watched the race. You saw the pack hold together through the early kilometers. You saw the surge. You saw the gap open. What the broadcast angle could not show you is what was happening inside the tactical structure of that lead group, and why Kiplimo's position within it was not passive. It was calculated. Championship 10,000-meter races are almost always won on a negative split, the second half faster than the first. Birmingham was no exception. The first 5 kilometers came through in around 13 minutes 52 seconds, roughly 66.2 seconds per lap. Controlled, not slow. That pace was fast enough to stop weaker finishers from sitting in and fully recovering, but not fast enough to strip the true closers of their speed at the end. Here is the part that does not make sense on the surface. Kiplimo's cardiovascular output through those first 25 minutes was not significantly lower than the men around him. He was running the same splits. He was breathing the same air. So where did the extra gear come from? It is in how he spent his oxygen, not how much he used. At pace, the lead pack was making constant small adjustments, responding to microsurges, holding position, reacting to contact. Each of those micro-decisions cost neuromuscular energy. Kiplimo was drafting roughly 4 to 6 meters off the front, in a pocket with clean air and minimal contact. Over 24 laps, that positional discipline probably saved him the equivalent of 80 to 120 meters of wasted muscular effort. When the bell rang, he still had that in reserve. The men who had been fighting for position did not. The most surprising thing about the final 2 laps is not the speed. It is when the decision was made. Most viewers saw the decisive move at the bell, lap 25. The actual decision was made around 800 meters earlier. Watch Kiplimo's arm carriage starting near the 9,000-meter mark. His elbows drop slightly, his cadence tightens. He is not attacking yet. He is preloading. His stride rate increases from around 182 steps per minute to around 188 before the final lap begins. The men around him are not responding because there is nothing visible to respond to. By the time the gap becomes obvious, the work is already done. The final lap breaks into 2 distinct phases. The first 300 meters, Kiplimo holds a controlled tempo surge, not a full sprint, but a gear most of his rivals cannot match in their current state. His stride length is around 2.1 meters, cadence around 191 steps per minute. His ground contact time, roughly 175 milliseconds at cruising pace, compresses toward 155 milliseconds as his legs begin operating with sprint mechanics rather than distance mechanics. The final 100 meters is a different conversation. By that point, the race is decided. His competitors have 2 choices: empty themselves, chasing a gap that will not close, or manage their finish for position. Most choose position. Kiplimo finishes in a time that sits among the fastest 10,000-meter finals in Commonwealth history. But the margin at the line hides the real story. The race was over with 200 meters to go. Here is what this tells us about championship distance running. Fitness is the entry ticket. Everyone in that final had earned their place. What separates the medalists is not who is fittest. It is who is most disciplined about how fitness gets spent. Kiplimo's race plan was not reactive. He did not wait to see what would happen. He built a margin through 24 laps of positional intelligence, then spent that margin in 55 seconds. Put yourself in a rival's shoes at the bell. You feel reasonably fresh. You have run 24 laps at controlled pace. You think you have something left. Then the pace goes to 55-second lap territory, and your legs simply do not convert the signal your brain is sending. That is not a failure of willpower. That is lactate kinetics. The body's ability to shift from aerobic to anaerobic metabolism under sustained load has a ceiling, and Kiplimo's ceiling that day was higher. What do you watch for now in any championship distance race? Watch the position battle in laps 18 through 22. That is where the race is actually decided. Watch who is fighting for position and who is being carried by the pack. Watch arm carriage tighten in the final 2 kilometers. That is a runner preloading their finish. And watch the 800-meter mark, not the bell. By the time the crowd reacts, the winner already knows. There is a real argument that 10,000-meter championship finals are the most tactically complex events in athletics. 100 meters is physics. A marathon is pacing strategy. 10,000 meters is both simultaneously for 27 minutes, while surrounded by 12 other elite athletes making the same calculations. That complexity is exactly why a 55-second final lap is so rare, and exactly why it is worth understanding when it happens. If you want to see the other side of this, what happens when a pace setter takes the tactical decision away from the field and forces a time trial, that breakdown is next. Subscribe so you do not miss it, and drop a comment. Team patient closer or team aggressive frontrunner? There is a right answer, and it changes depending on the field.